4, oh God, that long. Oh my God, time's flying. So there was a woman's march in Austin. And so, we attended, and, Crystal and about 100,000 of our nearest and dearest friends were there at the Capitol. And we were heard Joaquin Zihuatanejo speak. And our souls just melted with joy, and just the words and the way that he put them together was just, I don't know, it was just kind of soul searching or whatever for us. We loved it. And when Crystal idea, we all agreed, and she pulled up a YouTube and we listened and our hearts melted again. So we thought this is exactly how we want to end day 2 of this significant conference. And so without further ado, I don't want to take up any more time. I want to give him all of the time. Please help me welcome Joaquin Zihuatanejo.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm Joaquin Zihuatanejo. I'm a teacher and a poet, and a father, a partner, and a writer, and a world champion. Time permitting, I'll tell you what I'm a world champion at, but I've got a lot to cover and very little time to cover it in. When I got asked to do the Women's March in Austin, they called me. They got a hold of my number and they called me, and I answered the phone, and a lovely woman said, Joaquin, we'd love you to come and speak at the Women's March. And the first thing I said to them was, you do know I'm not a woman. And she said, no, we know that. Most of the speakers that day are going to be women, but you've written a lot about your partner and about your daughters. And we thought maybe you could write something to your daughters, but maybe be speaking to the entire gathered assembly of women, even though you're directly addressing your 2 daughters in what you're going to say. And I thought, wow. And I was honored. And that was hands down the biggest audience I've ever recited a piece to. But I'm honored to be here with you all today. Thank you so much for having me. When I was a public high school English teacher, one year I had a deaf student. And within the first 6 weeks grading period, I went through 3 interpreters, sign language interpreters. Because as you can tell already, I talk fast. Time is sacred to me. There's this book called 4,000 Weeks out there. You know why it's called 4,000 Weeks? Because that's all we get. On average, a human being gets about 4,000 weeks. And I only have about 1,280 left. So I talk faster than most because time is sacred to me. I only have so much of it. But I promise myself, since I know we have interpreters in the room who are helping our Spanish-speaking audience online, and they're also helping our Spanish-speaking audience in this room, that I'm going to slow my pace just a bit today. But I promise I'll still be electrifying. All right? Just stay with me. I remember I had a moment in teaching. I was a public high school English teacher for the best 7 years of my life. Then I wrote a book and had to go on a book tour with that. And then I became a world champion at something. Anyway, back to teaching. I made my students write every day because I think there's salvation in writing. I think it can heal you and it can make you free. I talked a lot to my students during our unit on archetypal symbolisms about thinker, writer, philosopher Carl Jung and his archetypal characters. The power of the shadow inside a novel. I was talking with these very advanced things with my students, and I was having them write about very advanced things that were in the novels that they were reading, but also the things that mirrored themselves inside those novels. I was having them write about that as well. So they were writing informative essays, but they're also writing reflective essays. And I remember one year, a young woman wrote a reflective response in her journal, and it was about pain, and it was about the shadow. That worried me, what she wrote about. She didn't come out and say what I think she wanted to say, but she was right at the edge of saying what she wanted to say. And this revelation was significant because it was about pain and it was about abuse. And it was about a man in her life, a man. And this is a child. I taught 11th grade English. This was a 16-year-old child. And so that worried me. So I asked this student, I didn't call them, after school tutorial. I called them mentorship sessions. I asked a student to come to a mentorship session with me after school and tried to have a dialogue to see if this was something that I needed to be concerned with in terms of mandatory reporting. And they couldn't verbalize. So I did something that I hadn't done before. I said to this scholar, sometimes it's very hard to say something out loud to the universe when you're staring into someone else's eyes. So let's just sit in chairs facing away from each other. And I'm going to talk this way, and you're going to talk that way. And you're going to be talking to the universe. And it's okay, because it's just you and the universe. There may be this voice over here, Mr. Sewataneo's voice, that's asking you questions, but don't worry about that. Just focus on the universe, and most importantly, focus on yourself. And with that moment, the scholar was able to voice that, yes, this was something that involved mandatory reporting. This was a form of sexual abuse that was going on in her life at the hands of an adult male in her life. It's one of my toughest days as a teacher, being that kind of advocate in that living, breathing moment. But when I look back on it, I think it may have been one of my best, because ultimately, at the end of it, someone became safe. People would ask me all the time, what's your job as a teacher? And I would always say, well, the first thing is I have to keep my students safe. That's my first job. These parents are entrusting me with their child's lives, emotionally, physically. I have to keep them safe. Then I have to teach them about subordinate conjunctions. But the first job is to keep them safe. I was really proud of myself in that moment and the job that I did at being an advocate. So before I talk about myself, I want to thank you all so very much for doing the sacred work that you do. Yours might just be the noblest of endeavors, especially since I live with a survivor who never gets to see me talk to audiences, and we live very close to this hotel. And when she found out I was going to be talking to this particular audience, she thought, oh my gosh, I've got to go. I want to see you do your thing, and I want to see this audience react to you, and I want to see them and maybe have conversations and dialogue with them. But then she developed a sinus infection yesterday. And she's got a little sinus cough, and she didn't want to be a distraction. So she sends her best to you all, and she also sends her gratitude to you all, thanking you for the great work that you do as advocates. But I think that moment came down to deep listening. That moment with me and that student, that child, it came down to deep listening. I just saw a fantastic documentary not too long ago. It's called Stutz. And it's about Phil Stutz, this brilliant thinker, writer, psychiatrist. And he's sort of a revolutionary in his field because his theory is that every single session that you have with him, you should walk out with a tool. Something that you can do today that will make you healthier, more whole, more complete. And this is radical. This is radical because many psychiatrists think it should take years of slow, methodical work before the healing begins to happen. Not Phil Stutz. No, that's not the way he works. He said, we ain't got time for that. We got to get better now. So he gives out a tool every day. One of the first tools he gives out is this thing that he calls the self-image pyramid. He talks about 3 elements of this pyramid. By the way, I promised I had some amazing slides to show you all, but tech said no slides today. The tech gods above us said, nothing's going to work for the MacBook for you, Joaquin, for the iPad, for the phone, but don't worry. If you can't do it without slides, you shouldn't do it. I'm that good, I promise. So there's this pyramid, and on the bottom of the pyramid, it says the word body. And then in the middle of the pyramid, it says the word people. And then at the top of the pyramid, which according to Dr. Phil Stutz is the most important, it says yourself. When I was thinking about deep listening and talking with you all about that today, I wanted to start with the 2 bottom bases, the body and people. Someone asked him, if you just do the pyramid and none of the other tools, how much healing can happen for you? And you know what he said? 85%. Think about that. Someone being healed 85% of the way towards center, just by doing one simple activity, this sense of self pyramid, this life force pyramid. So let's begin today with just the bottom 2 sections, and that is body and people. Phil Stutz says that if you just take care of your body physically, like if you sleep 8 hours, a good 8 hours, your mental health is going to be better. Raise your hand if you got a great 8 hours last night. Be honest. Be honest. You're in a hotel. I travel for a living. Hotel bedrooms, for lack of a more poetic word, they suck. Okay? Okay. It took me a while to come to terms with this, but my beautiful Puerto Rican wife and I, a while back, decided to spend lots and lots of money on a mattress. Our mattress, it gives us a cardiogram. It tells us about our heartbeat throughout the night on our app. Like it monitors our heartbeat throughout the night. Our mattress has a built-in air conditioner and heater. I can cool my body while warming my feet in my mattress. Yes, it was expensive, but it was an investment in our mental health, not our physical health, our mental health, because the body is tied into the mind. It even grades me, and I'm a former teacher, so I love this. I get a grade every day for the process of sleeping that I did that night. And when I make a 79.5 or lower, I'm so mad at myself for getting a C or a D or, God forbid, an F. So I take this sleeping thing seriously now. And of course, eating well helps. Walking around the block a few times helps. This is the body. And then we get to the second tier of the pyramid, which is people. And he says, just be around people. Even if you don't like them, he says, go have coffee with someone you don't like. He said, just being around another human being, it helps your mental health. So we're going to start there with those two tiers, the body and people and deep listening. So I'm going to come down and I'm going to hope that there's not a distinct feedback as I walk past this speaker. I've got the best tech person in the world. All right. Turn to someone near you and say these words to them. Hi, partner. Now, you're going to have to use your bodies to stand up and manipulate two chairs so they are facing away from each other. You in one chair, your partner in the other, distinctly facing in opposite directions from one another. I will give you 60 seconds to do this. Go. If you need a partner because your table is an odd number, raise your hand and look around the room for other people with raised hands. And we have a raised hand back there. We have a raised hand over there. Find each other. Swim through the sea of people and find each other. No cheating, no slightly askew, directly facing opposite directions, people. We're talking about deep listening. So this first activity involves our body because we had to stand up, we had to move something, we had to lift something, we had to rearrange something. We've already gotten physical, we've already moved. We already burned probably 2.5 calories. Just standing up and moving that. You burn calories when you chew. As you're chewing food, you're burning calories. Remember that, people. I'm sorry, one of you is going to have to stand up now and retrieve one piece of blank paper for you and one piece of blank paper for the other person, your partner. You each need one blank piece of paper. Fantastic, well done. So I've been doing this deep listening activity for about 20 years now. And I was at a conference not too long ago and I saw a young person half my age doing this activity and he called it the thin line. And I was like, that's a pretty cool name, but I call it snowflakes. And I've been calling it snowflakes for 20 years. So as cool as his name was, I'm sticking with mine. This activity in deep listening is called snowflakes. And what's going to happen is this. In a moment, I'm going to challenge you all to fold a paper snowflake that is an exact identical match to your partner who's sitting behind you. I know what you're thinking. Joaquin, scientists have told us no two snowflakes are alike. Let's prove the scientists wrong. We're going to do this two ways. We're going to start with the first way, and the first way is the wrong way because I'm trying to teach you about deep listening. So let's go with the wrong way first. Here's the wrong way. In the wrong way, this first version, and if you're going to do this activity with young people, remember, when you're instructing this with them, this is the wrong way first. So I'll show you the right way in a moment. Don't worry, we're going to get there. For the wrong way, you are not allowed to ask each other questions. For the wrong way, you are not allowed to make declarative statements to one another. For the wrong way, you're not allowed to raise your hand and ask me a question. For the wrong way, I want you, for a moment, to forget about that person behind you and focus just on yourself. All right? It's me, myself, and I. This is America. I, me. I got a story to tell. So there'll be no talking from anyone in the room except one person, me. I will give instructions. You may not raise your hand and ask me a question about the instructions. Remember, you're looking one way, they're looking the other. They're going to forget about you. You're going to forget about them. And hopefully, accidentally, we'll make an identical snowflake with one another. And by the way, when I give an instruction, I just want you to interpret that any way that you choose. Whatever's the right answer for you, trust your heart, trust your gut, trust your mind. Your heart is almost always right, okay? So here we go. Let's begin. Remember, you're looking opposite directions. No leaning over, no peeking. I'm watching. No, the camera cannot help us out either. All right. Step one. Fold your paper in half. Go. Excellent work. Well done. Step two. Tear off a small corner the size of a thumbnail and lay it on the table. Once again, that was tear off a small corner the size of a thumbnail and lay it on the table. Excellent work. Well done. Next step. Fold your paper in half. For those of you viewing at home, I hope you brought your child into the room and are doing this with your child. Excellent work. Well done. Next step. Tear off a small corner the size of a thumbnail and lay it on the table. Excellent work. Well done. Next step. Fold your paper in half. Excellent work. Well done. That was the penultimate step. So this is the final step. And I know we have folded a lot, and this might be difficult, pero sí se puede. All right? Last step. Tear off a small corner the size of a thumbnail and lay it on the table. Whatever that means to you. However you can do it. And now for the dramatic reveal. On the count of three, everyone will stand. Remember, body, we're going to move. We'll stand, walk around the corner of the chairs, face each other, and hold up their perfect snowflakes. Fold for fold, tear for tear. 1, 2, 3, stand, unfold, and show. Match them up. Line them up. I want to see perfection.
Yo quiero ver perfección.
All right.
Maravilloso.
Now, if you and your partner accidentally made a perfect snowflake, hold it in the air.
Pueden alzar su mano
Googly moogly.
y sostenerla.
All right. All right.
Maravilloso,
Hands down.
maravilloso.
So look, I'm a former teacher. I think of everything as test scores. It's in me. It's in my blood.
Está en mi
We
sangre.
had about 6 accidental correct versions.
And
And if you look at how many we had, and you say the percentages and the odds, our test score out of 100 would have been about a 14.
lo que sacaron
We
los
can do
niños,
better than a 14.
podemos hacer
We're not
mejor
going
que
to
los
call these
14.
failures. Oh no. We're going to call
No
these
vamos a
attempts
hablar-
that
no
did
vamos a
not go so
llamarlos,
well. Ladies, attempts that did
pérdidas,
not go so well on the table
pero
somewhere.
eso no
Grab a
sucedió
second
muy
sheet of
bien.
paper. Have a
Vamos a
seat
sacar-
again
vamos a
with your
tomar
partner
una
back to
segunda
back.
pieza de papel.
All right.
Maravilloso.
That was the wrong way. Now, let's do it the right way. An exercise in deep listening, and also an exercise in deep communicating. Because if you turn to someone behind you to give
Dan
them
la vuelta a ver a-
instruction, and you
y van a
start with
ver
this
con
form of
sus
instruction,
y van a poder ver las
Hey.
instrucciones.
folded in half hot
Y
dog.
se lo doblan nuevamente.
I need you to keep in mind of something.
Yo quiero que
In my barrio, I was raised in the barrio of the Lower East Side of Dallas, Texas. In my barrio, we didn't have hot dog and hamburger.
Texas,
We had
y
taco and
comemos
enchilada.
hamburguesa y-
All right?
y enchiladas.
So this is how we need to communicate.
Entonces,
Be
yo
thinking and be
como
mindful of the
tenemos que
person that we're
comunicarnos.
communicating in. Let's make sure we're communicating clearly and definitively, and maybe even slowly, so that we trust the process of me speaking and them listening, and trust the process of them speaking and me listening. Now, you cannot turn around in your chair and show them like this, no, this isn't about showing. This is about telling, communicating, and listening. So we're going to do this activity again, but we're going to do it the right way. And here's what's going to happen. I'm going to give a set of instructions, and then I'm going to turn it over to you to talk and listen, to teach and learn. These conversations, while holding the paper snowflake in front of your bodice, will take place with a slight angled head so that you cannot see what they're holding and they cannot see what you're holding, but you'll have to make sure your voice projects to their ear so that you can have this dialogue, and they're going to project back to your ear. Keep your snowflakes hidden in front of you. All right. Honor system. Let's begin. Back to back, attempt 2, the right way. Step 1. Fold your paper in half. Stop. Talk to each other first. Before you do anything, have a conversation. Back to back. Keep it hidden in front of you. Just communicate. Make sure you have a conversation about how you're holding it after the fact. If you're holding it this way and they're holding it that way, it will hurt your progress in the future. Make sure you talk about how you're holding it. We have a question. I'm coming to you.
You gave us the first step. Are we giving each other the rest?
No, just stay with the first step only. The question was, you gave us step 1. Are we supposed to continue on our own together? No. I'm about to bring us to step 2, but remember, have a dialogue about how you're holding it after every step. Step 2. Tear off a small corner the size of a thumbnail and lay it on the table, but first have a conversation. Listen, teach, talk, go.
I want Shakespeare. Yes, I need it.
Remember to talk about how you're holding it after the fact, where that tear is in juxtaposition to how you're holding it. Excellent work. Well done. Step 3, fold your paper in half. Talk to each other first. Keep it hidden in front of your bodice. Just use your voices to communicate, your ears to listen. Talk about how you're holding it after the fact. Excellent work. Well done. Next step. Tear off a small corner the size of a thumbnail and lay it on the table. Talk to each other first. Listen to each other first. Excellent work. Remember to talk about how you're holding it after the fact. This is the penultimate step. Why say next to last when you can say penultimate? It sounds cooler. Fold your paper in half. Talk to each other. Listen to each other. Amazing. I can feel our test scores rising already. All right, talk about how you're holding it after the fact. Listen to each other deeply. And now, the final step. Tear off a small corner the size of a thumbnail and lay it on the table. First, listen to each other, talk to each other, communicate. Go. Listen to each other, talk to each other, communicate, teach, and learn. All right. You brilliant, bright, shining lights. I believe in you. It's the magic moment time. On the count of three, rise, unfold, and show each other. 1, 2, 3, rise, unfold, show each other. Hold them up, match them up, fold for fold, tear for tear. Now hold your paper snowflake in the air if it matches with your partner after all that work. Hold it high and proud. Look at our test scores. Look around the room at what happened to our test scores. Everyone have a seat. I'm too excited. I get excited over this stuff. I get excited. I'm sorry, okay? Hate me if you will. I get excited over these things. Have a seat. Siéntate y portate bien, por favor. Young, amazing, bright, shining stars. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to take that snowflake and I want you to take it home and I want you to put it on the fridge. And when your partner asks, what the hell is that? You tell them it's a reminder of how awesome you are, all right? You can write a poem on that thing later if you want to. When I think about my story, it's really a story of two people. When people see me and my partner, my wife together, they always say Joaquin and Aida, just like that. They'll say Joaquin and Aida. Because we were teenagers when we met. And I instantly fell in love with her. And she instantly fell in like with me. I was super skinny and had big gangly teeth, and she was everything that I was not. She was beautiful, and she was cool, and she was smart, and she was strong. I think that's the key word in describing my wife is her strength. Maybe the strongest person I've ever met. I'll start with me. When I think about the beginning of my story with my mother and my father, did you see how I said that? Did you hear how I said that? A lot of people say my mom and my dad. They'll say it like that. And I always think of my mother and my father in that way, with this 3 seconds of silence between them, because I never saw them together in life. My mom was 17 when she had me, when I was born. My mother was a teenager, but she was younger and more beautiful and more wild and more rebellious than most teenagers can be at that age. So she was busy being young and wild and rebellious in my city, Dallas. So she was out in the streets being all those things. And I do not fault her for that. I love my mother, and I get it. I was once young and beautiful too, you know? My pops left the year I was born, and he never came back. And I thought that would be the beginning, middle, and end of the story, but there was a little more to tell down the line. It involves a book I wrote about him, for him, a collection of love poems for a man I never really knew. I found out through a Facebook message request that my father had died from a half-sister I didn't know existed. It became the quote that opened my book, Arsonist, a collection of love poems for my father. The epigraph to my book reads, "You don't know me? Not really? And I hate to tell you like this, but my father, I mean, our father, has died." 26 words. Facebook message request from a stranger. It's during my MFA, and I was writing these large anthematic poems about places and people, and I just trashed it all. When I got back to my office, which is attached to the side of my home, I crumpled. Thinking about those 26 words, I just crumpled onto the floor. My wife was asleep. It was 2 or 3 a.m. And I wept. I sobbed for my father for the first time in my life. And I woke up, I got myself out of this stupor, and I got myself composed, and I sat at my desk, and I wrote down in my journal, "How did your father's absence make you feel as a child?" And I wrote down one word, degraded. It made me feel degraded. And so I opened up my laptop and I typed in the word degraded, and I hit enter into the search engine to see what would come up. And the first thing, a lot of things popped up, but the first thing was a scientific essay on the 10 causes of land degradation. And I read it. It was long, but it was good. It was a good article. And I thought to myself, these 10 bold words that have this scientific essay underneath them, what if I pull these 10 bold words out of the essay and place them on a page by themselves and write a poem for my father underneath each one of them? And that became the first poem in this book that would become a book I wrote called Arsonist. And that wasn't the original title. The working title was Causes of Degradation, that title of that first poem. But I knew I had to change it because it had a lot of fire imagery inside the book. And I remember one of my professors having a conversation with him, James Stevens. I said to him, "I think I want to change the title of my book." And he said, "To what?" And I said, "Arsonist." And he said, "You must." And I said, "I think so too, but why?" And he said, "Joaquin, I've read all these poems. They're about you and your father. They're also a little bit about fire. And don't you see the word arsonist has the word S-O-N, sun, in the middle of it. And that single word contains the sentence, our son is, inside that one word." That's why you're James Stevens and I'm just Joaquin Sewataneo. So I think of him in that way. And I wanted to write a poem for them that could bring them back together. So I had to create a metaphor. I had to turn them into something. Something that might just happen to be together. I used to think my mother was a willow and my father was an oak. But the tree I fell from is crooked and broke, split in two by lightning. That's why there's nothing more frightening than the sound of my raised voice in direction. My youngest daughter, you see, I never wanted her to look at me the way I imagine I look at my father. Right as I stare him in the face and ask him, how could you leave me in a place where oak trees are as scarce as two-parent families? Where the first word a hungry child learns is, please. Ain't no shade under a family tree when a father leaves. Just boughs as broke as the vows he spoke the night he plucked me into existence. They say a tree can only withstand so much resistance. I wonder if you cut my heart in two and counted the rings from the center to its edge, would it equal the number of years it's been since you left? You were the taking tree. Took everything you could from her. Took everything you could from me. Left my mother's arms looking for your limbs and grasping only air. That's why she didn't mind ensnaring men who only pretended to care. Somewhere between the muck and mire of a brown girl's fear and a white boy's desire is where my roots took hold. I was less than a year old, nothing more than a sapling when you left me under the shade of the woman my mother used to be. Don't you see, Father? This is the story of a boy, a dull axe, and a tree. It's taken me years to cut you out of me. Can you imagine the cacophony? The sound of the blade striking against you? The sound of a family being split in two, and now that I'm through, I find I'm just as stumped as you, wondering what to do with the remnants of you. Maybe carve one of your limbs into a cane. No, I could never lean on you. Maybe sculpt you into a blood-red violin. No, I wouldn't know begin to find the music in any of this, so I'll carve a coffin from your carcass, give your absence some purpose, and I'll fill it with poems. Most of them true and a few of them lies. I can write about your hands and her eyes. Some will be hellos, but most will be goodbyes. And I'll load you up, cart you far away from me, give you a proper burial at sea, and though my muscles may ache from all that weight, I'll walk you out beyond the break and let the tide take you away from me. Maybe then we'll both be free. Maybe then the world can see that I am the fruit and you are the tree. I fell from you and you failed me. I am the waves, and she is the sea. I break away, and she breaks me. I am not you, though you are me. I am the fruit that fell far from the tree. So that's the trauma I dealt with as a young person, was the trauma of neglect. And then there's this neighborhood in Southeast Dallas called Pleasant Grove. It's got a nice sounding name. My wife has a t-shirt, she's from PG, and the t-shirt reads, well, at least our name sounds nice, Pleasant Grove. Because the saying around Dallas is, ain't much pleasant in Pleasant Grove. You gotta be cut from a different kind of cloth to live in that neighborhood. You have to be a little bit tough to live in that neighborhood because it's a tough neighborhood. That's the neighborhood my wife was raised in. My wife is tough, y'all. Real tough. And when I think about my story beginning, a lot of people might have just seen me as the poor, forgotten brown boy. I think there are many times the world tried to see me as the poor, forgotten brown boy. And the only thing I was of those was brown and boy. Because I was wealthy in faith. My grandfather taught me about that. And love, my grandfather gave me that. And I was also wealthy in tacos. And then there's my wife and her trauma. She's given me permission to share this poem with you all. I apologize, I don't have it memorized, so I'm going to have to read from the page. This is a poem I wrote for her many, many years ago. And this is some of her story. It's called Flawed, for my wife, Aida. She said, don't love me, I'm flawed. I've got more scars than the night's got stars. And if you get any closer to me, you'll learn the reason I'm so wild is because my father's hands ruined my manners toward men as a child. You'd realize the only reason I'm flirty is to disguise the fact that you're clean and I'm dirty, and I don't share my pain with God. So what makes you think I'll share it with you? And I look her in the eyes and I say, I choose you. I choose the possibility of us. I choose the way you smile when I cuss. Over something as simple as forgetting a line to a poem, I choose our someday daughter and the way I know you'll hold her, like she was the baptism that would cleanse you of all this strife. So I bartered a scholarship for the chance to see what love could teach us about life. Don't ask me about regret. Regret is a poem I haven't written yet. I choose you, I choose us. So when you push, I pull. And I don't begrudge the fact you only learned the first half of the golden rule. Do unto others before they do unto you. And it's true. Keeping people at arm's length means they can't touch you. So I earn your trust. The way children trace the lines in the coloring book with slow, deliberate movements, always asking before touching, and still you flinch like the memory of your father's lust was a barbed wire fence covered in rust. But your laugh is like a pair of wire cutters. So every chance I get, I tell you a bad joke. Like, baby, what's a nosy pepper do? It gets hauled up in your business. And you smile, knowing all the while that I can't write your nightmares away. So I watch you sleep, and when your eyes begin to sway in that frightful kind of way, I softly jostle you and say, you're safe. You're okay. And I watch you drift off into sleep, and I don't bother asking God for your soul to keep, because I know a few things to be true. Like I know God is in you. I know the reason you're afraid of a doctor's needle. I know angels walk among us disguised as people. I know I told you once you were the kind of woman I could easily fall in love with. I did. I am. Not despite your flaws, but because of them. Thank you. I've been married a long time, longer than some of you all have been alive. And I travel around the country working with young writers, college students, and high school students, and even middle school students. And all three of them will tend to ask me a question. They find out how long I've been in love and how long I've been in a partnership and been married. They'll ask me, what's the secret to love? What's the secret to loving someone well? And my answer is always, I don't know. That's a big question. But I can tell you what I do know, and it's helped me, and it's helped Aida, and it's helped us, and that is we practice every day the act of listening. Deep listening. That's the advice I give them. Practice the art and the act of deep listening every day with your partner. Listen to them. Listen before speaking. Maybe that's our secret. I remember laying in bed one night with my wife about, maybe 21, maybe it was 19 years ago, 21 years ago. And I turned to my wife and I said, have you heard about this thing called Facebook? And she said, yeah, I think I read something about that. Like it came out a few days ago. And I said to her, this is going to be huge. And she said, okay, why? Why do you think it's going to be huge? And I turned to her and I said, because people are desperately lonely. Most of the people I know feel very, very alone. And this is a chance for them to be heard. Gosh, and there's power in that. So I want you to practice your deep listening. And that deep listening even goes for you. I want you to practice the art of deep listening to yourself. When you're working with young people, especially who are going through the kinds of trauma that the young people have gone through that you're working with, they have a lot of tools at their disposal. One is books. And look, I get it. Kids and books today, they're not quite as close as they used to be. But I will tell you right now, there's a book called The Courage to Heal, and it was my wife's saving grace. And I had a slide to show you how worn it was, but it is worn and it is tattered because when she was going through the process of processing her trauma as a teenager when I met her, and she revealed this to me, and then going through the process of sending her father, her biological father, who was her rapist, to prison. Think about being 18 and going through all that. This was her saving grace. She read it every day. She wrote in it every day. But our kids today that are dealing with the kinds of things that my wife was dealing with, they have a tool in the palm of their hands. There are so many apps out there in the world for tracking your mood. Just simply type into the search engine in the App Store, mood tracking apps, journaling apps, meditation apps, breathing apps. There are countless apps to help our young people who are going through trauma deal with their trauma more effectively. One of them actually tracks the moods in colors and lets you make a 50-word notation under the color. You can go back and look at your month. If you were more red than blue, you can look at the description underneath. and realize why you are more red than blue. There's another app I love that has two journals, the standard journal they can write in every day, and also just their gratitude journal. People who are going through trauma, just like everyone else, needs to desperately practice the act of being grateful. I woke up today. I'm grateful for that. We can be grateful for the small things because it's gratitude, I think, that brings us back to the center of ourselves, just exuding gratitude for the world, for existence, even for our own pain, our own trauma. I asked my wife once, will you ever get over the trauma of what your father did to you? And she looked me right in the face and she said, no, I never will get over it. She said, but every day of my life, I'll get to battle to get through it. And that's a beautiful battle, she said to me. I think there's something to that. I think she might be right. So when I think about my existence as a young person, dealing with the neglect that I dealt with and overcoming that kind of trauma, and my wife Aida's existence, overcoming the living, breathing hell that was her trauma. At some point in our lives, she and I had to be by ourselves, alone, and think about one thing and one thing only, and that was the top of the pyramid. Remember the pyramid I mentioned earlier, the sense of self pyramid? Body, the bottom. People, in the middle. And the top and the most important aspect of the pyramid is yourself. I had to have time and real talk, therapy, lots of therapy, to get back to myself. My partner, my wife Aida, had to have time and real talk, lots of therapy to get back to her center and herself. So I want us to challenge the people that we're working with, that we're advocates for, to think about the importance of moving every day, walking every day, sleeping well every day, eating an apple instead of a Snickers every day. And also we want them to think about how important people are and having conversations with someone in their life, whether it's a friend or a colleague or an associate or a mentor or you. And then there's the self. And we have to remind them to focus on this every single day. So you have an extra sheet of paper on your table, and you have a pen or pencil. So now we're going to focus on the self. I want everyone to draw a shape on this piece of paper. It's an assigned drawing assignment, okay? Here's what I want you to draw. I want you to draw the shape of your head. Don't slam your face on the table and trace. It never works. If you draw your face this size, it's too small. If you draw your face this size, it's too small. If you draw your face this size, it's just right. Take up some space, people. Draw your face. No ears, no hair, none of that, all right? Just this. For you, that's me. That's my shape, not yours. Your shape might be a little more acute, a little more oblong. Now, after you draw that face, you've just created a work of art, so you must do as all artists do. Sign your name in a bold way on the bottom so that we know this is your face and not anyone else's face. Your first and last, please. This middle might even need to be involved for this one. This is an artist's signature. And now, turn to someone at your table and say these words to them. Hi, partner. And if we have an odd number, like a group of three, that's okay. Trust me. We'll have a partnership of three. Exchange faces with your partner. So they have yours and you have theirs. Exchange faces with your partner so they have yours and you have theirs. And now, we're going to do this step by step. This is going to be the quickest portrait ever drawn. If you see me with my phone in my hand, I am not updating the world of Twitter to tell them how awesome you are, although I want to. I am using my stopwatch application. Why? Because I'm a nerd. What's a nerd? Mexican nerd. And I love time. I'm going to give you 90 seconds, but before I give you the first instructions, let's begin with this first little quick thing. Probably the most awkward point of my whole presentation is about to happen. Here we go. Turn and look at your partner's eyes for 5 seconds. Go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Enough. Stop. Don't get lost. I don't want to have to go look for you, okay? Now, in 90 seconds, I want you to do them a solid, and I want you to draw their eye component wherever you think it goes on the face. By eye component, I mean the pupil, the lash, and the brow. Don't you dare leave them without brows. Hook them up, people. You have 90 seconds to draw the left eye, the right eye, the lashes, and the brow. Go. If you need your partner to look at your waist, say, partner, look my way so I can see your eyes again. Glasses are optional, but real talk, people, we ain't got time. You only have like another 78 seconds. $60 seconds left. Just the eyes and eyebrow, nothing else. Fifteen-second warning. Left and right, no cycloptic friends in the room, both eyes and eyebrows. 10 seconds left. Time. All right. Unfortunately, I talked too long. Facilitators, when I do this with young people, I make them rise and switch partners for each component of the face, but we ain't got time for that. So now we're going to go right into the nose. Look at your partner's nose. Go. And because this is easier, you only have 30 seconds. Don't you dare put a capital letter. You try and draw the essence of their nose. You got 30 seconds. Go. Stop laughing. They're trying hard. 10-second warning. Time. All right. All right, everyone. Eyes on me. I brought a teaching tool with me, a visual aid all the way from my house, 5 minutes that way. Here's the visual aid I brought. I call this kinds of smiles. I call this one the full no teeth. I call this the full some teeth. I call this the Mona Lisa. I call this the Kool-Aid. Turn and smile any way you like at your partner for 3 seconds. Go. Now, you have 60 seconds to capture the essence of their smile. Go. Some of y'all having too much fun. Y'all gonna get me in trouble. I'm not gonna be invited back ever to speak here. Five-second warning. I'm sorry, 15 seconds. I said 60. I apologize. I thought I said 45. The essence of the smile. Five-second warning. Time. You know, I found out later my father was an artist, and I love teaching art, maybe because of that tie I have with my father. But I also love teaching kindness. So I'm going to teach you a lesson in kindness right now, okay, people? I love teaching how to be kind. So here's a sentence you never get to say in life because it's not kind. Do not repeat this sentence. It's unkind. Don't you dare say to someone, hey, can you move your hair so I can see your ears? No. If you cannot see your partner's ears, use your imagination. Look toward your partner's ears for 3 seconds or imagine them for 3 seconds. Now, you have 35 seconds to draw their left ear and their right ear. Go. Not yet. You have to interpret them somehow. Use your imagination. You might think they have a George Michael Cross gold earring under that hair. They might. It's your interpretation. That back table back there is the turn-up table, and I want to go bowling with y'all someday. 10-second warning. We did not miss these slides at all, y'all. Y'all got this. Time. Okay, when I was a mocoso en el barrio, a snotty-nosed kid in my neighborhood, my uncle got me a job at the barbershop down the street. So I know a lot about hair, but I like to call it the crown. Because for some people it's hair, for others it's their favorite hat with hair sticking out of it, for others it's a sacred garment that they wear. Look at your partner's crown, whatever that is going on up here. Their crown, look at your partner's crown right now. You got 45 seconds to draw their crown, whatever's up here, hanging down or worn around the head. Go, you got 45 seconds, go. Ten-second warning. You know what? I'm going to do what teachers do. I'm going to float about the room. This is me floating about the room. I'm going to float about the room, y'all. Keep drawing. You got about 10 more seconds. I'm really interested in what this couple over here has done together over here. Y'all make some noise. Can you please clap for my adopted parents, my next door neighbors, Paul and Maria? They became my second mother and my second father. Oh my gosh. Advanced artists over here. I didn't know my neighbors were advanced artists, y'all. My family can draw. My adopted family's got skills with a Z. And so do y'all. Is this an art convention? Geez Louise. The talented. America's Got Talent. It's not just a clever name for a show. Time. All right, exchange faces back so that you have yours and they have theirs. And now comes my favorite part of the entire hour and a half I've been given. I like to call this part art, gallery, showcase, 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 showcase. And this is how it goes. In a moment, I will count to 3. And when I count to 3, you will lift up your face beside your face and begin walking around the room. For 60 seconds, we will walk. So everyone can see. 1, 2, wait, before I say 3, pull out your camera so you can take photos of people's faces with their drawings and put it on the gram. 1, 2, 3, hold it up and walk about the room. You have the room, people. You're giving you the room. It's yours. Keep walking. Take it all in. You know, absorb it. Make a friend through art. Oh, we're not done. I got a half an hour left. I'm using every minute. All right, keep walking. Keep showing off your art skills. All right. Okay. 20 more seconds. Okay. All right. I'm looking, I'm floating about the stage. All right. All right, have a seat. I said sit down, people. Where you were a moment ago in your assigned seat, students. The teacher in me is coming out again. Wow. 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 Okay. Wow, that just happened, y'all. That just happened. So, I travel all over the country talking with young people about writing, college students, high school students, middle school students, and I get the opportunity to tell young people all over our country, and I told some young people last week in La Plume, Pennsylvania, which is in the middle of nowhere, Pennsylvania. I told them this thing after we did this activity together. I told them this, and I'm going to tell it to you all. Some of you might know, but if you don't know, I want to teach you something. Here it is. As a citizen of the United States of America, you get to do a revolutionary act. You get to vote. And yeah, I know the national election is kind of important. I get it. And yeah, I know the state election is kind of important. I get it. But if you want to enact real change in your own life, in the lives of your children, vote at the local level election. Because that, my friends, is where you live. You want to prevent books from being banned in your libraries, vote in your local elections. They're all important, but that local one, that's where your children live. Let's practice voting right now. Raise your hand if you vote yes. The other artist in the room did a good job of capturing my likeness. The other artist did a good job. Raise your hand if you vote yes. Hands down, nice people. Oh, it's always the nice people, isn't it? They're the worst. Or are they the best? Hands down. Let's take a second vote, shall we? And this is where I find my poets in the room, my truth tellers, all right? Raise your hand with your hand on your hip if you vote yes. The other artist in the room did me dirty. Thank you, poets. Thank you, poets. Thank you, poets. Hands down. Hands down. Hands down. All right. It's the teacher in me. It's the teacher in me. I was floating about the room earlier, and I was also doing a good job of watching you all move, and I was looking at your work. And as a teacher, I must offer feedback. So I've got two pieces of artistic feedback to offer this collective, this cohort. Artistic feedback number one. Some of these are pretty good. Pretty good. That's artistic feedback number one. Artistic feedback number two. Some of these were the stuff of nightmares. Remember I told you how comfortable my bed is? I'm going to have problems sleeping tonight after seeing a few of these. Thank you for that image. When you do this with a young person, when you're trying to get them to focus on themselves, remind them that this is just an interpretation. It's just an interpretation. And most interpretations or first impressions tend to be wrong. But we can make it right. Because as soon as I saw you all walk in here, I could see that you have greatness in you, all of you. I knew that because of the work that you did, but I could see it physically with my own eyes because I can see it written all over your face. So right now, I want you to write one line of poetry across your face. Across the middle of your face, I want you to write one line of poetry with me right now. Because remember, we're focusing on the sense of self right now. Yourself, you, the person you're advocating for, they are the top of the pyramid. So I want you to focus on you, yourself. So we're all going to start with the same repetend. A repetend is two words that often begins a line of poetry that might be repeated a few lines down inside that same poem, a repetend. The most common repetend of all, because one of the jobs of the poet is to define who you are to the universe, is these two words, I am. Start there. Out to the side of your face, we're right across the middle of the face, one big, bold line of poetry. Stop after you get to am, don't go any further. I don't want you to write, I am an advocate for people dealing with their trauma, and I love helping them, and I'm also a mean softball player in my league on Wednesday nights, okay? I don't want you to write that because it's too matter of fact. Sometimes the thing that is every day in your life becomes matter of fact, and when we look at it, we can see it through a sort of normal lens, an ordinary lens, and the poet never writes the ordinary. The poet only writes the extraordinary. So we're going to use this thing in poetry that we have called metaphor. You're going to write that you are something that you're not. So what are you going to become? That's entirely up to you, but I want it to be daring. I want it to be different. I want it to be unique. I want it to be special, but I want it to be relatable to you. Maybe you are a shooting star flashing across the night sky. Maybe you are a soccer ball resting on a field with no one in sight. Maybe you are a single blade of grass amongst a field of millions. Maybe you are a mountain range in the distance that I can almost touch if I try. I don't know what you're going to be in this metaphor. I don't know. You're going to create it. One line right across the face. It can be across the top of the face. It can be across the middle of the face. It can be around the face. You have ownership of this one line. I'll give you about 90 seconds to think of one line of poetry, this metaphor that begins with I am, and then something odd and weird and unusual and different like you. Give you about 90 seconds to write. And by the way, if you want to keep writing underneath that metaphor a few more lines, feel free. You got 90 seconds. Fine. That's 90 seconds of writing and thinking. Well done. Dr. Phil Stutz has this life force pyramid. We talked about the bottom being the body, and that's simply sleeping well, trying to eat a little bit better, walking around the block, moving. And then we talked about people, and that's just engaging with one other person, with two other people, with three other people. The more people you're around, the healthier mentally you tend to be. And then when you get to yourself, when it's just you, it's just yourself, Dr. Phil Stutz says the way to get to that is through writing. That's how you get to it. To the center of yourself is through writing. So I'm going to challenge you to write. If you want to write down from the face, you can. If you want to take that first line that you wrote and put it on the back of the page and rewrite it so you have a blank space, feel free. If you have your own journal that you brought and you want to rewrite it into that and write down from that, you're not going to have enough time to write an entire poem. But you're going to get a good start. You're going to write down from this first I am metaphor. If you wrote, I am a lioness, well, in the metaphor, see if you can, a few lines down, come back to that initial metaphor and let your hands become paws and your voice will become a growl. Let's see if we can touch on that first metaphor again 1 or 2 more times down the length of the poem, maybe in the middle and at the end. We call this an extended metaphor, which is also called a conceit. Mr. Joaquin, do I have to put I am on every line? No. I think that's a bit too much repetend. You might beat the reader up with repetend. Mr. Joaquin, do I have to put that initial metaphor on every line? If I'm going to be a lioness, do I have to be a lioness on every? No, that's too much metaphor. Maybe in the beginning, the middle, and the end. Well, what do I put between, Mr. Joaquin? You elaborate on your pain, on your love, on your brilliance in a poetic way. Mr. Joaquin, you had rhyme in your poem. Does mine have to rhyme? No, it can if you want. It doesn't have to. Mr. Joaquin, should my lines be long or short? You decide. Short lines tend to convey urgency. Long lines tend to convey tension or suspense. Mr. Joaquin, how long does it have to be? You decide. You'll know. You decide, okay? I'm going to give you 5 minutes to write. You have 5 minutes to write starting now. Again, you won't have time to finish, but you'll have time to get a good start. Again, you might not have enough time to complete the poem, but this is about getting a good start. It's about writing about yourself. It's about centering yourself and you. This is your 2-minute warning. You have 2 minutes left. Keep writing, keep thinking, keep feeling yourself in a deep way. 30 seconds left. Final word, final image, final line. This isn't the end of the poem, just the end of what we have time for right now. Start thinking about getting that way and heading that way. Time. Excellent work. Well done. First three hands I see, come forward and grab a mic. Thank you. Right here. I saw one over there, and I saw one right here. Thank you. I saw this hand, I saw this hand, and I saw that one over there. Thank you. Come up, please. We're gonna have an open mic, y'all. Give it up for the open micers. You can stand right here to my side. Now, if you've never been to an open mic, I'm gonna tell y'all the rules. We got some rules, all right? Audience. Rules for y'all. If you hear something in the middle of the poem that makes you think to your mind, I heard that, you cannot shout out, I heard that, because it might throw the poet. What we do in the middle of the poem to let me know that we felt them is this right here. It's just 3 snaps. If you really felt it, it's 4. That's in the middle of the poem. But at the end of the poem, you'll know they're done, because they're going to have a powerful line. They're going to hand the mic to the next person, and they're going to start walking to their each other. And that's when my dog died, son. Or whatever. I don't know what they're going to say. Right? And they're going to say something powerful, and they're going to hand the mic. And when they are walking back, when they are done, you will applaud like it's your cousin Jose, like it's your cousin Ray Ray, like it's your cousin Muhammad, like it's your cousin Win, like it's your cousin Todd. I hope I got everyone. Graduating from college. All right. You're going to applaud like it's your cousin graduating from college. All right. Practice applauding like your cousin just graduated from college. Thank you. All right. That's your job, audience. Poets, your job. When you come up here, read your poem off the page that you wrote. Don't you dare put that page down and start going TED Talk on me. And then my grandma said to me, no, we ain't got time for a TED Talk up here. You come up here, you read your poem, hand the mic to the next person, and have a seat, please. And by the way, can you say your first name as you grab the mic and then read your poem? Please give it up for our first poet.
Was not expecting this, but I hope I do well. And my name is Caitlin. I use the pronouns she and her. Don't have a title just yet, but my poem goes, I am a ghost haunting this town. The person who once walked these hallways does so no more. I used to see her be a prisoner in her bed, the sheets and covers, shackles for her. The strange cousin of depression and anxiety used to visit her, clipping its nails, waiting for a moment to pierce her skin. I am the girl that used to live in this home. Sometimes I can only walk as far as a stained, welcome mat of memories that used to be here. Sorry, I'm a little nervous. Let's see. In other days, I can only reach the mailbox, which is filled with apologies from my father's mouth. Whatever I do, wherever I go, I cannot go back to that place my mother, father, and brother refer to as home. I am the woman who escaped this place. The chains and weights of my bed are easier to bend. My welcome mat holds scars that continue to heal, and I've replaced my mailbox with a journal of love notes for myself, the girl, and the ghost.
Wow. Don't forget your name. We need your name before the poem.
So my name's also Caitlin, but I go by Kat. So hi. I definitely cannot beat that. So that was really great. Good job. All right.
I am a masterpiece of love, compassion, and the exhilaration of freedom to choose and to be unequivocally me. And being me is pretty damn empowering. Why choose to be someone else, unknown of the road they face when I can choose mine? The tears, the pain, but the immense journey of me is beautiful because it's my story alone. My life is drawn out on canvas. It's a masquerade of frantic scribbles, splashes of color, but dark in most perimeters of the face. It's beautiful, this journey of life. Not perfect, but this ideal of my life is perfect to me. No one else needs to marvel but me. I am my own masterpiece.
Get your name.
My name is also Caitlin. No, I'm just kidding.
Wow.
It's Jennifer. All right. I am a river, carving her path through terrain, edges rough, the middle full and pushing, rushing to the other end, gathering what falls in her way. Disturbances are never ending, creating ripples and vibrations. Others come near, seeking nourishment, and it is provided. But I feel the sun. I feel the natural occurrence of evaporation. Parts of me leaving that I'll never get back. But maybe those parts aren't needed here in the river. Maybe they are needed to sustain elsewhere for another time in another season. But I continue to flow, curving and bending and etching out in the land where I am.
Thank you, Caitlin. Thank you, Kat. Thank you, Jennifer. Wow. The state of Texas gave me a teaching certificate so long ago that they gave me what's called a lifetime teaching certification, which means I can give homework till the last breath of my life. So to those three poets who just came up here, not Caitlin, Caitlin, and Caitlin, but Caitlin, Kat, and Jennifer, here's my homework for you all. Write your book of poetry and take my money, okay? I gotta get out of here in a few minutes, but I recited a poem about my pain earlier, and I recited a poem about my wife's pain earlier, and I don't want to end with pain, I want to end with light. So when I think about the four voices that gave me my center, that took me back to the center of myself, that helped me in my journey, that were my advocates, the way you're advocates for someone, I think of my beautiful grandfather, my silent mother, my absent father, and this one student named Juan. You ever hear that expression? Ay, he's a Juan. You never heard that? He's a Juan. You ever heard that? It's a thing in my culture. I believe anyone named Juan or Juanita is magic, and it has everything to do with a small brown peasant named Juan Diego who witnessed a miracle. So like it's a sacred name in my culture. And like every once in a while, if you see a Juanita or a Juan, an elder will be like, don't worry, he's a Juan, you know, it's got magic in him. This kid's name was John, and he had magic in him. So when I was a mocoso, my uncle said, Mio, what are you gonna be when you grow up? And I said, I want to win a trophy. And he said, what trophy? And I said, La Copa del Mundo. There's a trophy called the World Cup, y'all. I found out after the first season that my skills were more messy, M-E-S-S-Y, than messy, M-E-S-S-I. I was horrible. So if I was ever gonna make my way out of the body, it was gonna be with my head, my brain, my mind, and my writing. And yes, I was lucky enough to win a scholarship to go to college and change my life. But after I became a teacher, I found this thing called Poetry Slam competitions. And I won the city championship for Dallas. And then I won the state championship for Texas. And then I won the Southwest Regional Championship for the Southwest United States. I won that twice in back-to-back years. I'm the only poet to ever do that, by the way. And then I won the national championship for the United States of America. And because of that, they asked me to represent you, the entire United States of America, at a competition in Paris, France. They flew me first class, y'all. I was laying back with a hot towel, smelling myself. Like, ooh. Can I close my talk with the poem that I used in Paris, France to win the world championship for us that year? Yeah, because I won that world championship too. So this is about my center and the four voices that brought me back to my center and my four advocates. It's called Poem for John, and every time I recite it, I dedicate to this student I had named John. and to all the people who advocated for me and helped me get back to center and become a great teacher and a great poet and a great writer. But today I also dedicate to every single one of you for being an advocate the way my grandfather was for me. Thank you for being that advocate. So here's a little bit of light to close us out today. This is the poem that won the World Championship. By the way, guess what they call this World Championship in Paris, France? You cannot write this, it just is. It's called the World Cup of Poetry Slam. Remember I told my uncle I was gonna win the World Cup? Guess what? I did. Somebody has to have all their dreams come true, might as well be me. Or the young people that you're advocating for, or the people you're advocating for. Let's make their dreams come true too. This is a poem to close my session here. Thank you for listening to me. My name is Joaquin Sewataneo. I had a slide that you could scan to get my information, but I'll just hang out till everyone scans the card that's in my wallet that has the QR. I'm hanging. Here's a poem to close this. So the assignment I gave my high school English students was to write a series of 4 short haiku poems that distinctly say something about themselves and then recite them to the class. These are the 4 poems that John recited that day. Speaking in a quiet, communicative way always came easy to me. Accident is equal to invention, but there's hope. I still practice accidents. I restore antique radios. I like the way static feels in my palms. You cannot deny the lucid fact that silence must succumb to voice. Now, I have to let you know now, John. Although you never uttered one word in class, you spoke volumes to me. And you taught me a lesson in humility, because I realized that day in my blind and deaf arrogance that I asked you to master my language without attempting to learn one word of yours. So starting today, I'll begin by learning the signs for what I feel are the most beautiful spoken words in existence. Words like moon, eclipse, grandfather, sunflower. And I realize now, John, if I were ever to write you a poem, it would probably sound something like this to you. My mother was the moon, and my father was the sun. The moon and sun that existed in a constant state of eclipse. So I learned to grow despite the darkness. And I learned at an early age the power of spoken word. My mother's silence and my father's absence from cave walls, and my grandfather's words reverberated up of like children dancing in a field of purple simply for the sake of purple. And it is true, metaphorically speaking, on a sunflower growing wildly in the alley adjacent to nothing. And though my petals are sent upwards toward darkness, my roots are sent deeply toward the warmth of all the voices that nourished me or didn't nourish me. So thank you, mute mother. Thank you, absent father. Thank you, beautiful, all-encompassing grandfather. And thank you, John, my silent, poetic student. For your words. Thank you all so much. I truly appreciate today. It'll stay with me always.
Much, Joaquin. We want to give you this gift. Are you okay if I take out the contents and hand them to you? Okay. First of all, did we fulfill, I guess, what our plan was, which was to have a special keynote for you all? I mean, I don't know how we could have done this any better. I don't know if you all agree with me or not, but let's give them one more round of applause. So first, just in case you need something else to write on, we wanted to give that, or if you want to give that to your wife, that would be amazing too. Wonderful, thank you. And then I think this was Crystal that picked this out, actually. Here is the other, I'll let you open.
Okay, this is probably gonna be my wife's too. I guess at the end of it.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Thank you all so much. Thank you.
Oh, so that is the end. Sorry, that could. I was just.
Y'all got a gala to get ready for tonight.
So yes, Joaquin, are you okay with people
I'm
coming and
gonna
getting?
hang out by the stage. for-
Okay, wonderful. So if you'd like to get some information from Joaquin, he's going to be hanging out here. But thank you all we have a full house. This is really great. And thank you all for coming back. And yeah, so the day we are done for the day, and we will have our little night with Tasa and Denton and getting the taste of Denton here in a little bit. But please take your time. Please come and get information that you'd like to get from Joaquin. And our assignments tonight are write some. I'm going to do that. I'm going to write some poems tonight. So thank y'all so much. Have a good one. We'll see you in a bit.
Thank you, everyone, all of our online attendees. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you. Please don't forget to complete your evaluations. I included the links. I can include them again. Just a reminder, tomorrow on Wednesday during our closing remarks, the location for Conference 2024 will be revealed. Please be sure to join us. You don't want to miss that exciting announcement. And thank you so much. Hope you had a great day at the conference today. Thanks so much. Take care. Thank you, everyone.